Left of the box.
It was towards the end of the class, and a man came in with a backpack. He said to the teacher, like, "Oh, is this such and such psychology class?" And the professor replied, "Oh, no, you're probably in the wrong class." Then he said, "Oh, what class is this?" The professor replied, like, "This is a gender class or philosophy of gender class." The man then replied and said, "Oh, can I stay?" The professor then said to him, "We need to continue our class. Could you please leave?" And while the man was listening to her reply, he put down his backpack in front of him at his feet, and he pulled out a knife. It still had like one of those like sheaths or covers on it, like a plastic one. And the thing that disgusts me the most is that this vile, mischievous smile that he had on his face, and immediately the professor's face like just turned to like pure fear, and also the other classmates were like starting to scream. He raised the knife and started chasing the professor.
CTV News. Triple stabbing at University of Waterloo was hate-motivated, police say. Man charged. A triple stabbing during a gender studies class at the University of Waterloo is believed to have been a hate-motivated attack, police said Thursday, as they laid multiple charges against a 24-year-old former student.
How important is it to have these types of discussions at universities and feel
I
safe?
think it's crucial. Absolutely. I think it's crucial because, I mean, if you can't have a conversation about that kind of topic at a university, where can you? That's really, I mean, universities are supposed to be the places where the marketplace of ideas is most sort of unrestricted. So it feels very, very controlling for somebody to try and restrict it through violence.
You mentioned that, trying to control it through violence. Do you fear this could put a chill, for some people who maybe want to learn about these issues or even discuss these issues?
Absolutely. Of course it does. You're putting people into a position where they're afraid to be themselves and afraid to talk about the issues that need to be talked about.
Tweet from Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe. There is no further threat to our community. This was a very troubling and disturbing incident. I'm relieved that the individual involved was quickly apprehended. Waterloo City Council and staff offer our support and hopes for a full recovery to those injured on UW's campus today.
In terms of the investigation that has been conducted thus far, investigators have reason to believe that this was a planned and targeted attack motivated by hate related to gender expression and gender identity. It is both sad and disturbing that this incident has occurred during Pride Month, a time where we celebrate and recognize members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. We hope that this incident does not diminish from these celebrations, but instead encourages us all to come together, to continue to celebrate and continue to inspire love over hate.
Tweet from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Yesterday's stabbings at a gender studies class at the University of Waterloo are horrifying and unacceptable. This type of violence must always be condemned. Our thoughts are with the professor and 2 students who were injured. The fact that the stabbings at the University of Waterloo were hate-motivated is absolutely despicable. I strongly condemn this vile act. It is another reminder that we can never let misogynistic anti-2S LGBTQI+ rhetoric escalate, because these words have real-life consequences.
Did I expect this to happen? Honestly, a bit. Because just given the social and political climate of the last few years of like violent right-wing conspiracies spewed through like social media and becoming a talking point even in the mainstream media, I'm not surprised that eventually someone becomes so ideologically deluded that they think that they're doing justice when they attack an instructor and children. One thing I want to emphasize is that my classmates are like 2nd and 3rd years. They're like maybe 20, 21. Like, these are kids.
Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Many of you who watch my videos knows me as a regular caller into the Majority Report. Sandy from Ontario. That is, Sandy from Waterloo, Ontario. Seeing this horror in the news hits different when the place shown is your home. I wasn't a student at the University of Waterloo, UW, but I've spent plenty of time on the campus located next to Waterloo Park. I've been to seminars, seen speakers, special events, productions, festivals, activism organizing, and the university is very supportive of the arts. I used to be active with the theaters and would rehearse there all the time in different buildings, different rooms. There's a chance one of the plays I was in rehearsed in the same room as this incident, in Hagey Hall. My friends and I frequently go for walks around the campus. It's a campus you could get lost wandering, like literally. The layout makes no sense. A mix of old and new buildings that are all over the place, and it has a mess of paths, some that just kind of lead nowhere. We'd sometimes have to use the GPS on people's phones to help them find the rehearsal space. The public art on campus has its own unique style. It's bad. It's pretty bad. The Canadian geese that hang around on campus are their own breed. If Elon and Zuckerberg were to go in a fight against one of these geese, my money is on the goose, and that's a fight I'd watch. UW isn't simply in the community, it helps to create community. However, it's not my style to acknowledge the good without also acknowledging the bad. UW is known for taking advantage of international students, cutting costs at the expense of needed programs, and finding ways to squeeze money out of students. It is, after all, a profit-seeking university. UW has a mental health crisis with long wait lists for students seeking help, and it has a high suicide rate among students. Canada in general has a mental health crisis, as mental health isn't covered under our universal health care, which means mental health programs must beg for funding and many people are left untreated. With the added stress and expenses of going to universities, students are particularly vulnerable to mental illness. A rundown of the incident. On Wednesday, June 28th, a recent graduate, a 24-year-old man, entered a classroom of about 40 students in Hagey Hall. Once he had the professor verify the class was gender studies, he pulled out 2 large knives and attacked the professor and students. As students ran out of the room, some of them threw chairs and other objects at the attacker, trying to get him to stop. UW's emergency alert system failed to work, and people in that same building had no idea what was going on. There wasn't clear communication to students on what to do, and many who fled the classroom were left wondering how to get their belongings left behind, like cell phones and house keys. The suspect was located in the building by police trying to blend in with victims to escape. The professor and 2 students were sent to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The Waterloo police chief said the suspect, who had been interviewed by police, said he wanted to make a statement about gender identity. The accused has been charged with multiple offenses. I know lots of people who work at or attend UW. I don't personally know the professor, but I know people who do. My heart goes out to her, the other victims, and everyone who witnessed this horror. I'm thankful that in Canada, we have gun laws. Automatic guns are banned. There's a freeze on all sales and transfers of handguns. Background checks, which include mental health assessments, prevent someone like him from getting a gun. It would have been a lot worse if that weren't the case. This got national, even international coverage because attacks like this in Canada are inconceivable. At least, that's what we'd like to think. I've been struggling writing this script. My autistic brain is still processing what happened. I sometimes feel things so deeply I go numb just so I can cope, which makes it hard for me to communicate what I want to say. I've lived in a bunch of cities over my life, but Waterloo, where I've been for 15 years, is the only place that's felt like home. Every time I hear of a mass shooting or attack on a group of people, I'm sickened, angry, and my heart hurts for the victims. When an attack hits home, it feels different. There's an added level of violation that the place you felt safe in, the place you're familiar with, your community, was harmed. Even though I'm not the type of person to think, oh, it will never happen here, I'm still left feeling like it isn't real. I guess, despite my thinking it could happen, deep down I felt it wouldn't happen. Seeing images of the police, people scared, ambulances, and knowing that if it had been another day, it could have been me or someone close to me in the very spot being shown on screen shatters any sense of security I had. He was targeting people because of the trans and gender hysteria perpetrated by the right, targeting people like me, non-binary, queer, targeting my friends, my community. I can't imagine how I'd feel if I had lost someone I care about in an attack like this. I don't want to imagine it. I shouldn't have to. No one should. So many people's lives have been ruined because a person filled with hatred for themselves and others wanted to make a statement for whatever sick reason they came up with. The amount of conditioning and twisted thinking it takes to go out and actively try to kill, I have no words for it. I've seen comments about him, an international student, that he should be sent back to where he came from. Why? What good would that do? These comments drip with bigotry and imply that he did what he did because of where he's from. He was radicalized here by our media, our influencers, our culture. It's about time Canadians get our heads out of our asses and stop pretending like this isn't Canada. This is Canada. This has always been Canada. One of our biggest exports is hate. Stefan Molyneux, Stephen Crowder, Jordan Peterson, Ted Cruz all have roots in Canada. It's not a coincidence. It's a result of what resides here. Canada has politicians from municipal to federal feeding into right-wing conspiracies, trying to ban books, accusing queer folks of being groomers, blaming immigrants for problems created by those in power, wanting to take away a person's right to choose what happens to their body. Everything happening in the States we call out as bad or backwards is happening here. This country was built on white supremacy and genocide. No amount of maple wash will rinse the blood stain off the map. I made a maple wash video earlier in June asking the question, are LGBTQ plus folks safe in Canada? We are safer relative to other places, but we are not safe. All the queer folks I know have been rejected for who they are, have felt unsafe, have been threatened with harm. Many of them have received death threats and have been assaulted. While the attacks like the one at UW are rare, attacks against the LGBTQ plus community are a daily occurrence. And it's been increasing. So why is it getting worse? Clicks, attention, power, money. Right-wingers, funded by billionaires, spew their hate. Some are grifters, some believe it, and it gets them views. Tech companies look the other way for as long as possible because they want the money attached to these views. These right-wingers work with politicians to rile up the base because anger motivates actions. So long as they get their voters to turn out and maintain their power, they don't care what happens to the people who don't vote for them. The thing about influencers is they're the ones being influenced by their audience. One feeds into the other and their hate grows. The need for attention is so bad, they'll go down any road to get it. They're not acting from a place of principle. They're acting from a place of selfish greed. As the rhetoric gets more extreme, accusations towards groups of people become more direct. But they know not to cross a line. Right-wingers say things like, LGBTQ plus people are grooming kids. They're trying to take away your lifestyle. They're mutilating children. They're a threat to our precious, vulnerable women. Queer folks are mentally ill or they're going against God. They must be stopped by any means necessary or else you'll never be a man. As long as they exist, you'll never be good enough. You're the one under threat. Right-wingers fill their base with hatred for themselves and others, and then they indicate what they should do, but never directly say, go attack them. That way, when one of their unhinged fans acts out on this toxic messaging, they have plausible deniability. It's stochastic terrorism 101. But now, right-wingers aren't denying they're influencing these attacks. Some are even defending and justifying them. Small transgressions are being dismissed as free speech or religious freedoms. People who do horrible things are becoming role models and are supported by millions. It's gotten so bad, some influencers, media figures, and politicians are outright saying LGBTQ plus folks need to be eliminated from society. And the pushback from the leaders on the left? Well, heaven forbid they come across as woke. They don't want to stir the boiling pot because they might get splashed. And if all of this wasn't bad enough, people on the left are giving credibility to bad faith arguments. I have a couple videos covering TYT's Cenk and Anna spewing transphobic messaging. They just keep getting worse. They recently went on another tear about the travesties of trans women in women's sports. People have tried to talk to them, educate them, and they refuse to listen, refuse to accept they're wrong. They dig in more by going on right-wing shows and endorsing right-wing talking points that just have no basis in reality. Cenk says trans women need to be banned from women's sports because of information he's failed to interpret properly. His own biases keeps him from thinking critically. It's not just trans women being harmed by this. Cis women are also being accused of being too masculine to play in women's sports. Measuring hormones, monitoring, and invasive medical exams are being done to ensure it's fair game, even though these same standards don't apply to men for men's sports. Oh, the sanctity of women's sports must be protected. This wasn't an issue a few years ago. The right has made this an issue, and Cenk and Anna are giving it fuel. So what? Trans women and women who don't conform 100% to made-up standards are banned from playing women's sports. What about trans men? If they want trans women to compete with men, shouldn't they also want trans men to compete with women? Well, no, you see, that's different because trans men, they're like actually, oh, right. Yeah, they're men, and they should compete with men. To allow trans men to play in men's sports, but not allow trans women to play in women's sports, is discrimination. If you allow discrimination in one area, you're opening the door to allow others to be discriminated against. As Emma Vigeland said, inclusion as a broad societal goal trumps cherry-picked instances of unfairness. Trans women are not a threat to women's sports. The garbage coming out of Cenk and Anna is a threat to trans people. Our existence is not up for debate. Human rights are not up for debate. Those two don't get to dictate how queer folks fight for our right to live. Pride Month was wonderful and painful. I went to the Pride celebration in Willow Park at the beginning of June. The thought of a gunman showing up never crossed my mind. That's because I'm in Canada. The public generally doesn't have to worry about this. What did cross my mind, the way the park is situated would make it very unlikely a driver could get in and go on a rampage. If someone were to show up intending harm with a weapon, there's enough people around to beat that person into a coma with pride flags. It took me a little bit to just relax and enjoy myself. I saw so many people there happy, supporting each other, encouraging each other, free to be themselves. The concept of non-binary wasn't around when I was a kid. I knew something wasn't right. I questioned my femininity. I didn't understand why I never fit in as a girl. I have no idea how I would have developed if I had known this simple concept. Seeing little kids with NB flags, knowing who they are, being embraced by the people around them, their parents proudly standing beside them, just made me so glad that they would have a part of life I never got. And knowing that there are bigots wanting to take this from them, knowing that when people left this event and they're on their own, many won't be safe to be who they are. Many will become targets for simply existing. Like, what are we doing? Why do so many people want to roll back the progress we've made? People whine that we get a whole month to celebrate who we are, when really it's only fleeting moments within. The rest of the time, we're under constant threat of violence. It doesn't have to be like this. To all of the cis, not a slur, straight people out there who don't want to get involved because it's not your fight, we need you to step up. You may not see this as your fight, but it is. This hatred will only grow stronger, encompass more people, people who don't 100% conform to the right-wing dogma of the day, people who currently think they're safe, unless we all push back. This means you need to get into it. You need to speak up when you hear hateful rhetoric. You need to actively show support. Get into the comment sections of YouTubers and challenge bigoted comments. Call out people on social media, especially if it's someone you know. You need to educate yourself so you can educate others. Let everyone know there's no place for hate around you, that you will not tolerate intolerance. If you aren't willing to do this, know that when the time comes, I'm not going to be there for you, because chances are I'll already be gone. It's not going to be easy. It's going to make you uncomfortable. You will get hurt. You may even become a target. You need to be willing to take the slaps across the face now to prevent someone you care about from being shot later. Don't wait for this to be your problem. Don't wait for hate to hit your home. On June 28th, a man walked into a classroom in my city, in my home, and stabbed people because he wanted to make a statement about gender identity during Pride Month. Okay, well, I also have a statement. This is me, July 1st, Canada Day, not hiding who I am. I went to the Canada Day celebration in Waterloo Park with my pride flags out, loud and proud. I went to show we will not go back into the closet, that kids will be free to grow up as who they are. I went to show I'm not afraid to be queer as fuck. I went, and you know what? I enjoyed myself. I got to see an amazing drone show because, of course, that's such a Waterloo thing to do, to have drones instead of fireworks. He failed. My love for my community, my home, is stronger than the hate he has for himself and others. I truly believe love will win. Better futures should be awaiting the next generations. I will not stop fighting to make sure that happens. I can't change the world, but together, we will. Don't forget to hit buttons and leave comments. While you're at it, please go do the same on Bennie's YouTube channel. She is a trans woman who can no longer work at TYT with the main host spewing transphobic messages. She didn't want her presence there to placate people into thinking what Jank and Anna are saying has any legitimacy. She tried to get through to them, but once it became clear to her Jank and Anna are refusing to learn and grow, she can no longer be a part of TYT. Trans folks have an extremely hard time finding stable employment. Keep in mind, in the States, people are allowed to discriminate, and healthcare is tied to employment, which makes stepping away from a job so much harder. Bennie is incredibly brave for doing what she did. I've linked to her leaving TYT video below. Please send her love and support on every platform you have. If you're still a fan of TYT, I get you think Jank and Anna are majority good people. This doesn't excuse the harm they're causing. You must get into the comments. I am the show. Make yourself heard and push back against what Jank and Anna are saying and against the anti-trans comments people are now feeling comfortable putting into chat. I've heard from so many trans folks they no longer feel welcome or safe in the chats or with the network. If you like and support TYT, help them to be better. Or cancel your membership and give it to me instead. These are the platforms where you can find more stuff from me. I could also use your support. You can do that by sharing my webpage, sandylovis.com, as much as possible to help me build my art career. And if you have the funds to spare, sign up to become a patron or purchase something off my wish list. Every little bit helps. Links are in the description box below. A special thanks to those of you who already have. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.